But let me tell you a story real fast. I don't know if I ever told you this story before. This is when I was living in New York. I was living in New York, and I was down in the financial district in Battery Park. And I come down Maiden in the morning, the road Maiden, and I get on Broadway. And right by Wall Street, where the Bull is, you know, the running of the Bulls, and the Bull Market, the Crunch Gym was right there. It's where I used to work out. And so I go there, and I lived there for a year or so. And I remember like always going there. And between 9 and 5 in the day, there's always this bum sitting on the street outside this one big financial firm. I forget the name of it. And then there's the Crunch Gym. I always walked by and saw him as I went to the gym, went in the gym, worked out, came back out, saw him, and I didn't take too much notice to him. But over time, I started to see this guy was actually on the schedule. He was always there from 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, every single day, 9 to 5. And there's something about the guy, he was a little different than most bums because he wore a suit. Yeah, his face was weathered, he needed to shave, he needed a haircut and everything else. But the guy did the best he could to look proper. He was always buttoned up, the tie had a really nice Windsor knot on it. He had a nice gig line, meaning his shirt line, his belt, and his zipper line all were in alignment, kind of like the military days. His shoes, his shirt was always tucked in. His shoes, you know, obviously need a polish, but you could tell that he grabbed a piece of paper or something and tried to shine the best he could. He didn't sit down, but stood. And he stood from 9 to 5, almost like he was paid to be there. Like he shows up 9 to 5, kind of like a job. Anyway, I remember vividly, one day I was coming in, I was on this boxing like session with some trainers there and stuff, and I came out exhausted. It was a hard workout. There was a McDonald's across the street, so I went to the McDonald's. I grabbed like eight cheeseburgers, you know, the dollar menu ones, and I wanted to find out what this guy's deal was. So I grabbed the bag, 8 cheeseburgers, and I just stood next to him and put the bag like on the podium thing there, the cement block, and just opened the bag and just didn't say anything. But I guess basically with my actions, I said you're welcome to have one, or as many as you need. So I opened one and I ate the burger, and then I went and grabbed another one. And finally, when I was eating the second one, he kind of looked over. I gave him a sign, go ahead, help yourself. And he did. He grabbed the burger, kind of gave him a little half-assed smile. Then what I saw was, what shocked me even more, is that he opened the burger up and he started to peel off pickles, and he didn't like that. And then he took some of the bread off because he didn't want too much bread. I know it's kind of weird for someone that's begging. He's choosing now. He's being picky. And I said, man, what's the deal, man? I don't mean to pry or anything else, but if you love to talk to you, man, I see the way you dress, and you know, you're not quite like most homeless people. It looks like you try to present yourself well. You know, obviously, it's either you're not that hungry or you're just picky because you don't like the pickles, and he kind of laughed a little bit. And he goes on and tells me a story. I'm there for about an hour with the guy talking. And the shorter version of the story is this. He used to be the CEO and the head of a financial firm, making hundreds of millions of dollars every year. He was married to the love of his life, and he had 3 kids. All the kids were in college or out of college, you know, getting married, you know, starting their own families. He lived in Connecticut. He flew a helicopter from Connecticut to the top of his building and landed there and went to work. Anyway, he was in Connecticut one night for a big award ceremony that he was being presented a financial award of excellence. He went out there and gave a speech and stuff, and it was a big reception, cocktail hour, and you know, a lot of people just, you know, kind of like sucking his dick, you know, you're the best kind of thing. But his wife was really his love. That was his motivation, his driving force. That was a person that really was, you know, I say champions come in pairs of 2 because they battle themselves in perfection. That was his counterpart in his championship status. He wouldn't be everything he was if it wasn't for the support and love that he got from her. She was really everything to him. Kind of like Nancy Reagan and Ronald Reagan. They loved each other so much they kind of almost abandoned their kids that way because they loved each other so much. That was kind of their MO. So after the end of this ceremony in Connecticut, I think it was in Derry, Connecticut, he was driving home to his house, which is, you know, multi-million-dollar place and nice car. I mean, really, the guy worked his ass off, achieved a lot, and very humble in nature and very loving. Just this honest, good guy, it seemed like. He had a couple of drinks that night, and next thing he knows, he woke up, and he was driving. He woke up, and he was like in a coma, I guess, for like a week and a half or something. When he finally came to in the hospital, he got the news that his wife didn't make it. You know, his wife died. And So he didn't get charged for anything. He didn't get charged for drinking and driving or any kind of criminal act. He was released based on his power and status and everything else. But he couldn't live without her. His kids kind of looked at him a little differently. And so even though the courts and the law of the land didn't put him into any kind of disciplinary action, he put himself in a self-arrest state. He took all of his money, all his possessions, and got rid of them. Set up trust for his kids and his grandkids. Gave everything away. He sold his house. And then what he did, he thought the best thing he could do, because he was so embarrassed and so depressed at what happened and not having the love of his life, that he went back to the streets he owned, where he was the head shot, and everyone kissed his ass, and he was a man. And he made hundreds of millions for everybody, and set up lives, and just unreal what this guy, accomplished in his life. And I won't say his name, nor I even know his last name. But he went back and sat outside his building, stood there, from doors open of business to the close of business, Monday through Friday. I don't know where he went afterwards, but he didn't sit there. He didn't have a sign or anything else. He just stood there. And everyone knew who he was. That worked at that building, and he stood there in self-arrest, and to let them know that never let your success own you. Never get too far ahead of who you are. Always remember who you are. And he let that go, and had an accident and lost his life and lost his life from it. So he felt by being there, he was providing a service, and the best he knew how to. His perception was like, I'm doing the right thing here. And I was just moved by it, but I was also really irritated by it. And I remember yelling at him, and I remember crying a little bit with him. I got emotional with him. That's kind of fucking who I am. And I told him, I go, your decision, as admirable as you see it, has a big flaw in it. And that flaw is that the woman you love so much, if you allow this decision, what you're doing, to continue to the end of your days, then her reputation, her memory dies with you. But you have the power to share that. You have the power to talk to your grandkids, to tell them the stories of this wonderful woman, how much she meant to you, how much she made you better. Your stories are all that's left of her life to live. And don't tell me when you hug your grandkid, right? That isn't the only time that she's allowed to feel the embrace of a grandkid she never knew. The way you see things, he obviously saw it as a mission to teach others of his mistake. I saw it possibly as me as a time period. Maybe he served his time, maybe it's time to move on. And maybe it's time for him to stop teaching his employees or strangers, whatever else, but teach their family the lessons. Allow his wife to live on. I mean, that's a story, but it's a perception on how he saw things. The funny thing is, I left. And I was irritated because he kept saying, no, that's not right, I need to stay here. And obviously it wasn't making any sense to him, he wasn't hearing what I had to say, or maybe what I had to say. There's another piece of story I didn't know I left. And he was there every day, man, 3-4 months, man, every single day. The next day I never saw him. I don't know where he went. I was there for another 5-6 months before I moved to LA. I never saw him again. I like to think he moved on and went back to his family. I like to think. I mean, maybe he, went somewhere else. I don't know. But I'm hoping, by saying this story, I'm hoping that, he was able to look at the situation differently. Yes, it's tough times and everything else, and he thought, this is my punishment. I need to do this, and he was agreeing with that. But another person talking to another person, maybe he saw another perspective to it, another way to pay it forward, another way to pay for those mistakes, not in a self-indulgence of depression, but in a way of motivation of speaking to others of how he did wrong and how not to do and learn from my mistakes mentality. I bring that up because the perception of how you see things are so much more powerful than the actual events itself.
Something inside me that pulls beneath the surface.